almost up. Give it 1 second. All right. Awesome. We are live streaming now. All right, cool. So my name is David Fidowa. I'm with Invent Tribe, founder, inventor, coach, mentor, and everything in between. And I'm here to help people get their products licensed. And so I wanted to do a live Q&A to help anybody and everybody I can move forward through their process of getting questions answered. Because I know, going through this journey myself, I had a difficult time. It took me a long time, but once I learned the process and understand the process, I know that I can help just by getting a couple questions answered. So those that want to get their questions answered, I'd start firing them away into the inbox. I always start off every webinar giving you a little bit of a history about me, because I feel that's always so very important. Whenever I go listen to a speaker or I go consume anyone's content or advice or anything like that, I always like to understand where they're coming from, what their experience is, because if they don't have the experience and they're just doing all stuff off hearsay, then who's to say their advice is better than yours? And so I've licensed my own products. I've got one right here, a couple of them around here. They're not on my desk anymore. So I've licensed 5 of my own products in total, and I've helped coach over 170 inventors how to license their own products. And so I have quite a bit of experience coaching, teaching, and motivating people through the process of getting their products licensed. You'd say I have more experience coaching than I do licensing my own products now. But, that was something I always kind of loved doing. I got good at licensing my own products, and part of me during that process, part of my motivation was being able to teach and help other people license their own products. And so I got good at that, and then I got great at coaching and teaching others. And so I'm here to help. I really am. I've helped quite a few people in the past get through the struggles of getting their product licensed. So let me know what your questions are. Let me know where your struggle's at, where you're getting stuck, and I can help you get unstuck. Let me check to see if we're getting, I forgot to open my chat box, my question box. If anybody wanted to start dropping some Q&A or some questions into the box, I'd love to start answering them to kind of get everything rolling. I usually like start talking about kind of stories of licensing, because people, when you're on the outside and you haven't licensed a product before, a lot of the experiences that you get from actually just licensing a product, you get to look back, and with that experience you have a different perspective on life, you have a different perspective on business and how it's all done. And so I have one question here in the box. I have 2 ideas. Where do I start? Always a great question. That depends on where you're at. So, if you look at, let's use an example of like going on vacation, right? When you're going and you're driving to a location, even if it's 20 minutes away or wherever it is, if you don't know where you're at, where you're starting, then it's very hard to get to where you're going, because you can't necessarily know your process along the way. And so part of that question would be kind of like, where are you at? Have you developed the products? Are they just napkin sketches? And it'd be great if you could kind of add a little bit of content, add another question box to fill in kind of where you're at. But I'll start at the beginning and we'll kind of go from there. And so the point in which you start is education. Education is a big leap forward in your process, because I get this question a lot. Where do I start? And I tell people, if you go out and figure out what you need to do, then the action of doing that thing is much easier. You have much more confidence. Okay, I have a start on a prototype. Awesome. So you are at ground floor development. That's awesome. And so if you because think about this in life, right? Clarity and confidence get you to move forward, right? Clarity and confidence. Those two things. When you have clarity of where you want to go, and so, and I have to use the name Galaxy Note because that's the name that you have on here. So Galaxy Note, you know, when you have clarity of where you want to go, right? And so when you tell me, where do I start? Well, first question I have for you is, Todd. All right, sweet. Thank you, Todd. Todd, do you want to license this? Do you want to be a royalty check inventor, or do you want to build a business? Do you want to have warehouses and employees and go to trade shows? So there's two different paths in life on that perspective. I personally, I love the royalty check. You hand it over to somebody else, they do the heavy lifting, and they then send you royalty checks, and you get to work on the next project. Because I myself, I'm an idea person. Like, I do love the execution aspect of it, but I'm not like I love this one product and this is the only thing I ever want to work on. I like working on multiples. So I love to bring in more products. And so that path for licensing was what was right for me. So when you're getting started, knowing clarity, where I'm going, licensing, I want to be a royalty check inventor. All right, sweet. So now that you know that, the education part comes in. Becoming educated on the process, the what to do next, builds your confidence in moving forward. A lot of people, when they get started, they say, I don't know what to do. They do a bunch of research. They watch a bunch of videos. They kind of try to connect things together. And then they half-heartedly take steps forward because they don't know where to go. They don't know how to make those jumps forward. And so they'll like half-heartedly go at this. They'll half-heartedly go at this. And their product will really just kind of stay in one place. And they'll continually do the thing that they like doing, which is usually prototyping. You inventors out there that love prototyping and continue to prototype, that will not get you closer to monetizing a product in most cases. And so you need to get past that prototyping phase and get outside of your comfort zone. Some of the things that you're going to need to do is research. You're going to need to develop, and this is specifically for Todd, before you prototype anything, research your marketplace, get 15 to 20 potential licensees. You need to make a spreadsheet with their websites, not Walmart, not Bed Bath & Beyond, not Home Depot, not Target, the people who sell to Home Depot, Lowe's, Target, and Bed Bath & Beyond, if that makes sense. So make a list of those 15 to 20 companies. Once you have that, then you're going to figure out your competitive advantage. A lot of inventors, they see this, but they have a hard time articulating it or saying what their competitive advantage is. So when you do your research, you're trying to really figure out the words that you're going to be using to say, this is how my product is different. This is how it's better. And so this is all research phase. This is step number one. And so you develop your list of companies that you're going to be calling and pitching to. You develop your competitive advantage. And if there are competing products out there, you have to understand why your product's better, how it's better, and if there's companies that, or if there's products out there that make your product irrelevant, or somebody has invented things out in front of you. And so that's where you start out. So education, learn and understand how and what to do with all these things. But in essence, the first step is research and finding out who your market is, what it is. And then I'll give you the other 4 steps in essence. And we can dive into those a little bit more later on the Q&A if you'd like. But so research, then you're going to market. So you're going to use that prototype that you built, Todd, to make a video, 30 to 60 seconds, pitching the value and the benefit of your product with supporting benefits to finish out the video. And once you have that, then you're going to move to protection. You're going to be filing, PPA or going for a patent, sometimes copyright, design patent. That is something that's product specific that you have to understand. Once you've done that, then you're going to be pitching to companies to get interest. Once you have interest, then you move on to negotiate and close the deal. So that's the process in a nutshell. If I could put it into, a 2-minute discussion. So I hope that helps. Okay, Todd said, I want to do royalties. Yes, yes, yes. Awesome. Yeah, and a lot of inventors that I do work with, they love the royalty check business model they want to be an idea person. They want to hand it off to somebody else for trade shows and employees and warehouses and all that stuff. So thank you, Todd, for the great questions. Keep them coming if you've got them. Next question I've got is Ray. Dave, is this the right time to license a product and why? This is your friend Ray. Hey, Ray. Yes, it is. It is one of the best times I feel that I'm seeing right now to license products. Reason being is pandemic slowed down innovation. I had a deal that was on the table January of 2020. Remember, that was like kind of right as the pandemic was starting to come to a head. And company was interested. They're like, yes, we love this. We're ready to go. Pandemic hit. They put things on pause. And we just signed a deal in April. We signed the deal in April. And so they kind of put the whole thing on ice until now that they're like, all right, we see the end of the pandemic is near. We see the light at the end of the tunnel. We need to go because we got to have new products coming down the pipeline. We don't want to be the only company caught flat-footed. So all of them are, I'm not going to say all of them are open for innovation, but all the ones that are open for innovation are very interested in new products right now because of what happened with the pandemic. It kind of put a hold on demand and retailers. This is another thing that happened with retail. A lot of the retailers just reordered the same things that they had ordered from 2019 because they're having such a difficult time reviewing new products. So essentially they filled the stores with the same stuff from 2019. And so they're like, oh my gosh, we've got 2-year-old products in here. We need new stuff. We need new product. Consumers are starving for new innovation because they essentially had to take a year off from new products. So right now is a very great time for inventors, for licensing. Open innovation is on its high. I don't know if it's on it's not peaked, but I mean, it's at an all-time high and could be continuing to go higher just because inventors love it, companies love it, and companies actually save money with it. So yes, right now is a great time. So Ray, thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for that question. Good to see you on. Stephen White, with only 3D printed prototypes, licensing is more difficult and raising capital for tooling, marketing, and sales is also difficult. Both products as utility patent pendings. We have professional quality pitch decks for both products and are primarily trying DRTV licensing. What is a standard advance and royalty percentage for those markets? Do I need production models and sales to attract high quality licensees? Stephen, thank you for coming out. So I'm going to break your question apart into little pieces and kind of start to dissect it a little bit in terms of a market. So DRTV, as seen on TV, is a very competitive market and a very difficult market to navigate for multiple reasons. And one of them is I talked to one of the biggest companies in the category, and they said, last year we reviewed 1,500 products and we took 0. And so there's a very low probability of success. And so that's very hard for me as an inventor, being in this business as long as I have, for me to swallow that pill that, out of 1,500 other inventors that pitched, there was zero interest. And so I like to look at that and say, all right, I'm going to go to a different place. I'm going to pitch to a different market. So Stephen, a lot of the impulse buy type products, you can present in other places. DRTV is a very competitive place. There is aggressive strategies that are used by a lot of the different players in the space. And so pitching to one company at a time is very important because the companies in that space don't like you to tell them no. And so that should be your strategy going in, pitching to one company at a time. All-Star Marketing is a great company that I've had good experiences with. Also, Warren Tuttle, he has a connection with Lifetime Brands. The name will come to me. Another company that does DRTV or as seen on TV marketing. And so to kind of loop back to your questions, what is a standard advance? Standard advance if you're licensing with the big ones. So here's how it works. There's feeder companies, DRTV companies. You have to realize DRTV is not a licensed trademark. It is not owned by a company. Every company that steps in that space can put DRTV, that red stamp with the TV and the DRTV in the middle of it, and everybody can use it. And so when you see that, you can't say like standards, because there's small companies, and then there's the behemoths. And a lot of the small companies, what they do is they'll take on a product, they'll prep it for market, right? They'll figure out manufacturing, they'll figure out packaging, they'll figure out a pitch, they'll do a video, they'll do all these things. And then they go to the bigger companies that have the big media buying power to push it out in a large way. And so when you're looking at a standard advance or royalty percentage on those, the bigger companies, if you're licensing with one of the bigger ones, you're looking at usually a $50,000 advance and $250,000 minimums. And royalty percentages range anywhere from 2% to 5%. I usually don't see anything higher than that, but I mean, I'm usually seeing around $250,000 minimums, which is super attractive. But then I always go back to, what's your probability of success? And that's where kind of my desire to pursue that market falls apart. It's tough. It's a tough space. So those are the standard percentages as a large company. The smaller feeder companies are not giving advances because they're using all the cash available to prep the product, get it ready, and present it to the bigger companies. And so most of the time at the smaller feeder companies, the advance doesn't exist. And then royalty percentages, they'll do a little bit more, 5 to 7%. And then your second part of your question is, do I need production models and sales to attract high quality licensees? No. And this is a double-edged sword because, and I'm going to probably tell a longer story than you need, but I want to get this point across, is that I've seen companies, and I've worked through deals, I've helped out on these, where an inventor has taken a product to market, they start selling it, and then essentially they move their business into another brand where they do all the distribution. It turns into a licensing deal. There is this myth out there that you get a higher percentage if you've done production and you create sales. You don't get a higher royalty. I've coached on multiple deals. I've been a part of multiple deals, and it always comes out to be right around the same percentage, 3 to 7%. And what happens though with the ones that get the sales already built in, a lot of times the company is buying your molds, they're buying existing inventory. So they're basically making you whole and then giving you your 5 to 7% royalty. And so the licensee loves it if you spend all your money figuring out if it's going to work. They want you to make the big bets. You spend $100,000 of your money to figure out if it's going to work. And then once you do and it works, they would love to put it in their pipeline. But there's a difference in skill set. A lot of, or most inventors, including myself, our skill set is invention creation, product development, not internet marketing. So you can have an amazing product, and I've seen this happen, amazing product, be terrible at internet marketing. So you take your product, you're like, I'm going to go get sales and I'm going to license it. So you got this great product, you put it all together, you package it, you go to sell it online, and it makes a public statement that says this product is no good, not because the product's no good, it's because the inventor behind it is good at product development, innovation, prototyping, and not internet marketing. And so that's where usually there's this disconnect, and great products fall apart. Big investments where you hear inventors losing all this money because they took their product to market. Now they got a garage full of blah, 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 blah. And so you need to be very careful with the production and sales to attract licensees. There are situations where I do recommend it, where if you approach a company in a licensing capacity, you're saying, hey, we're interested in licensing, and they come back to you and say, Stephen, we're interested in this benefit, but we're not necessarily sure of the demand. That's when you can come back to them and say, if I can prove demand, would you guys want to bring this into your product line? They say yes. That gives a scenario where you can create a excuse me, little hiccup. A Kickstarter campaign, right? You create this awesome Kickstarter campaign, and that's a different skill set, right? Doing those are a different skill set than licensing products, and so what you need is you need to be able to prove it out. So there's this tipping point where companies look at it and they say, Stephen, we like it, but we don't know if there's interest or the demand for this. The inventor can come back and say, I'll take this, I'll do a successful Kickstarter campaign. But if this thing funds, you guys are taking over production and distribution, because those are all whole nother skill sets, which most companies employ people to do these things. So don't get stuck in the trap of like, all right, I need sales, I need production to license it, because most of the time you don't. And if you do, you need to do it under the guidance or under the partnership with a company that's ready and willing to take it over. Let me flip it over. I have coached and taught and been a part of deals where the inventor has created this business because they wanted to venture. They get to a point in their career where they're like, all right, I want to license the product off, and then they end up licensing it. And so companies love it because they're like, yes, this is a proven market. These are proven stats. These are proven sales. It's an easy yes for them, but it takes a lot to get to that point. And you can get stuck in the middle where you want to be a licensing inventor, a royalty check inventor, and you don't make it to the point where sales are adequate, which that number is, we don't know. And you get stuck because now you're, $50, $60, $100,000 or more invested, and now you got to get your money back, but you can't get the sales because you don't know certain skills to get your money back out of either sales or turning it into a licensing deal. So be very careful when you're trading down that path. I've seen a lot of inventors get stuck in the middle. I hope that helps. Do let me know if you have any questions or any follow-ups on that, Stephen. Todd, I've started this process. How do I start to license? I have a company that is very interested in. Sorry, I'm reading these to myself to get caught up. Okay, there. Todd said, I have started this process. How do I start to licensing? I have a company that's, okay, so Todd is saying, let me read this out loud. I have started the licensing process. I have a company that's very interested in my invention, but I want to be protected. The negotiation process. So when you get to negotiation, there's a lot of psychology that goes on throughout the process of negotiation, because you, and let me give it to you from a coach's perspective, and then I'll kind of wrap it back around to the inventor. So from a coach's perspective, there's a mental mindset and focus, because when you focus on things, then that's what you pay attention to. That's what you talk about. And if you don't notice that in life, like, notice what you're talking about. That's what you're thinking about all the time. And so when you're in a negotiation, you need to be focusing on the right things, because if you're not focusing on the right things, then you're getting the company to focus on the wrong things. What I mean by that is, a lot of the times companies will come back and say, well, what's the patent status? And the inventor will send back all this stuff about the patent. Well, patents don't make money. And so the inventor usually focuses in on the patent, and then the company starts focusing in on the patent, and the deal crumbles apart, because now it's all about how does the patent work, not how do we get this product to market and make money. And so, Todd, the best thing I can tell you is focusing on the right things. And I wouldn't have time in a 30 minutes that we have left, or even an hour, to really train somebody on the right things to focus on. And that does take coaching. And not to plug my program here, but reach out to us. David at inventtribe.com. That's my email address, and we can talk about coaching and how to get you through the negotiation process, because that is something that you do need one-on-one coaching for as you move into negotiation, because it's such a specific mindset, focus, language, all these different things go into closing a licensing deal. So Todd, I hope you email me so we can talk more. David said, have you ever used a grant to fund your product development? If so, any advice from that experience? Jason, no. Reason being is usually I get a company interested in my products for less than $100. And so if you're going out and getting a grant, it's probably taking you more time to get the grant than it is to get your product in front of a company and get interest. And so, I see your follow-up question. Do I need a prototype, proof of concept to get a company to take me serious? In a way, yes, you do. You need a proof of concept. And you may have a very complex project. And I realize that I've got 30 minutes left and the questions are coming in. So I'm going to start cranking on these things. And thank you, everybody, for the questions. Just keep them coming in. I'm going to try to knock them all out. So I don't use funding because I use such an inexpensive approach. And one of the things, if you have a complex project, there's a difference between innovation and profitable innovation. Those are two very different things. And inventors, they always think they're one and the same, and they run into a lot of trouble. Reason being is they think up this great idea. And yes, it is a great idea, but that doesn't necessarily mean it can make money. And so they spend all this money prototyping and patenting, and right, they're $50,000 in by the time they present to a company, and poof, it's innovation, but it's not profitable innovation. So what I do is I take my shortest point from A to B, and whatever it takes to present the concept in this is how it works, that's what I do. I've made videos to companies. I didn't know how this product that I was working on was going to work. I used a little movie magic. I did some editing. I did some camera angles, made it look like it worked. I presented to the company, and they understood the value proposition that I was giving them. They emailed me back and said, this is very interesting. We love it, but we understand in the video, it's not a functional prototype. How does it work? I got on the phone with them. We had a conversation. They put their engineers on how to make it work, right? I wasn't investing any more dollars. They were putting their money towards making it work. It was my product. They were going to pay me on it. And so that is my advice with the complex projects. Figure out if it's profitable innovation over just innovation. So David, I hope that helps. Do give me any follow-up questions you have on that. If I have a game to license, do I copyright it, or do I file a patent, or do I get a design patent? So games have different aspects to them. With the intellectual property, obviously you'd want to talk to an intellectual property attorney, but from my perspective, and obviously not understanding what your product is, a lot of times you're going to copyright the rules. If you have any innovative parts of the game that can use a utility patent, you would want to file a provisional patent application. But a lot of the times what game inventors are doing is they're using trademarks to trademark a brand, copyrights to copyright the rules and any marketing material. And then if there is any functional aspects to it, and I guess the one that comes to mind is like PieFace. PieFace has a little thing that flips up, and you crank a knob, and they pass it around, and it clicks so many times, and one person gets the pie in the face, and that's the game. So that's actually a functional aspect that they might be able to use a utility patent on. So you can actually be using all three and trademark. So look into that. One of the things you want to start out with using is common law trademark. Google that, understand how it works. It can help you a lot and save you a lot of money to look into. It's kind of a free way to get started with your trademark. Tina. Hey, Tina. I hope all is great with your bait butler. Years ago, great product. Would you recommend staying in the same industry even though you feel that you've got something pretty special for another one? Tina, I love this question, because you are hitting the nail on the head with one of the aspects of why I beat the drum of being an industry-specific inventor, because you can be more successful, you can license more products. You have to understand what you're giving up when you jump to another category. That's all. The time that it took you to get into all those different industries, to reach out to all those different companies, and to build relationships, 3 to 6 months, maybe 9 months, has to go into another industry. So that's all it is. So if you feel that your product is unique enough and can garner the revenue that you feel you can create, then go to another category. But realize this, you are in the fishing category. For you to come up with another fishing product and pitch to your licensee and other companies within the category, you can sit down, whip up prototype, do a quick video presentation and send it off. Where when you jump to a new industry, you're 3 to 6 months on the phone, calling, emailing, following up to build your database of companies and contacts to start. So it's a choice, and it's a choice, and it's really a time thing. So decide that for yourself. Dan, All-Star Products takes control of your IP if you submit a sell sheet. How did you have a good experience with them? Dan, so I pitched to All-Star back in the day when I used to do As Seen on TV products, but I don't do them anymore because of the probability of success. And so I don't think that they take control of your IP, but I haven't seen their submission form recently in the last year or two. And so they may have changed it a lot of the times. And I'm just taking a guess at this, knowing the people at All-Star, and when they say that they control your IP, a lot of times they're saying we have control over what you have submitted, meaning your marketing material, and they can show it to other people. They're not saying, and these are all assumptions because I haven't obviously seen their document, that they're not saying we control your patent. They're saying we control what you've submitted so that we can then show it to other people and figure out if there's possibility of us taking this forward, right? They shop it around. And so I don't know about their submission agreements, but that's the feeling that I have of what they have it, but I don't know that for sure. So Dan, I do wish I could help you more, but obviously I don't have the document in front of me to really know. Let me jump over here. Dan had a question here. What's your biggest challenge when it comes to licensing your product right now? God, you almost got me stumped here. Okay, so I don't know what my biggest challenge is. When you're inventing in an industry, I guess time is my biggest challenge, because if I had more time, I could invent more products. If I could invent more products, and also, so that's one of the things, because when you're in an industry and you're pitching a lot of products, you're getting a feedback loop from companies, and they kind of start telling you what they're looking for. It takes a while to build that relationship and to pitch enough products to get to that point. But then you need time, because so a lot of inventors, when they get into this, their perspective is, or assumptions are, that you pitch a product and then it gets licensed. Well, that's not the case. There's still quite a bit of time that it takes to license your invention. You've got to work through a deal. I'm working through a deal right now. This deal probably won't close for another 3 to 6 months. And it's a lot of back and forth. And in that business side, or handling the business side of it, I lose my time to be able to invent and pitch more products. So that is it. I mean, I have a system in place. I have a very precise system, and it's a ton of fun to run the royalty machine that I created, because I invent a product. I have a team of people that create, sell sheets, marketing material, all that different stuff for me. And then I have a pitch team. They go out and pitch to the companies. But once it hits negotiation phase, then I'm back in and I work through deals. And so, running and working the deal, I know that's it's a ton of fun. It's my favorite part, but I do wish I had more time. You had a second part to your question. I could waste the next year making products that should sell but don't. Yeah, and a lot of inventors do. Also in the as seen on TV category, I don't want to submit to telebrands because they not star products on that. Oh, so Dan, you had a question over to the other box too. Sorry, I'm like trailing off as I'm reading. Yeah, I don't, this is another one about the as seen on TV space. I just don't pitch products there anymore. I've kind of moved on from that space. Okay, here's a good one. Tina said, what is your thoughts about getting a flat dollar per unit instead of a royalty rate percentage? So there's pluses and minuses. I love the dollar or the flat dollar amount because there's no like messing with it. Because for those that have seen licensing contracts or know or understand a little bit about licensing, when you get a royalty, I'm getting 5% of what? And that of what is a huge question. It's a complete game changer. And they can almost say like, hey, you can say whatever royalty you want, but we get to control the terms. Because you can have a 20% royalty, but if they control the terms of what that is based off of, they control the amount of money they pay you. And so with a flat dollar per unit, so let's say you get $1 per unit and they sell 10,000 units, you get $10,000. But if you get 5% of $10,000, and let's say they sell 10,000 units at $10 a piece, that's $100,000. Then it's pretty easy, right? $100,000, 5%, $5,000. Sorry if I'm doing the math too quickly. But then the definition a lot of the times changes. So they say it's 5% of net selling or net sales. Net sales is to be defined as net selling price minus allowances, deductions. They even put executive salaries, cost of goods, shipping, packaging. So like they start to line item all these things out. So they say, all right, yeah, we sold 10,000 units at $10 a piece. That's $100,000, but we take out our cost of goods. Cost of goods equals, $4 per unit. That's $40,000 off the top. Boom, we're down to $60,000. So our 5% is not based off of $100,000. It's based off $60,000. But then they keep doing the line items. So then you say, all right, cost of goods is that. Packaging is another dollar per unit. So that's another 10 grand off the top. We're down to $50,000. And marketing budget, another dollar per unit. So we're down to $40,000. And so do you see what I'm saying is like having it based off a percentage and the net sales definition can really control how much you actually make on the product, which that's the most important thing. What's your bottom line? And so I like flat amounts, but here's the thing about flat amounts. $1 today is not the same as $1 in 15 years if your licensing deal is still active, especially right now in the feeling of a lot of inflation that's going on. $1 5 years ago is different than $1 today. And so if you have a licensing deal that's a flat fee, you're a flat fee throughout the whole licensing contract, unless you have an inflationary clause, which I've seen inventors try to put it in, but companies don't agree to it because they're just like, we're doing the flat amount to make it not messy. An inflationary clause makes it messy again. So that's the thing, right? There's always pluses and minuses to each clause in a contract most of the time. And so you have to balance your desires. I still usually personally stick with a royalty unless the company is looking to push for it, because I know how to control my net sales definition very well and how they can control it. And once we're on the same page on how that net sales definition works, that's where you can start negotiating your royalty up. And here's like another interesting part is a lot of inventors keep negotiating their royalty rate up, but don't understand that the company is putting in different line items to lower their royalty down. And so understanding how that works is super important. Ray said, another great question, Ray. Dave, I have one more question. When you get a licensing deal, does the manufacturer pay money up front and then comes the royalties? Yes and no, depending. If your some deals get money up front, others don't. I've gotten licensing deals where I get money up front. I've gotten other ones where I don't. Depends on the deal, depends on the situation. There's a lot of factors that go into it, and also who's negotiating it. That can play a big role into how your deal comes together. And so, one of the things I'd recommend to everybody is just asking, is upfront money appropriate in this deal? And companies say, yeah, we do that. And when you ask in a very open way, they're very open about saying yes or no. So I do recommend always asking, but never demanding, because that kind of blow up your deal. And so to answer Ray's question in a nutshell, yes and no, money does come up front, and then royalties. It can happen both ways. It depends on how you cut up the deal. So thank you, Ray. Terry, I have the next question. I need 100,000 for an injection mold for my sling buckets. How do I get past this? Terry, are you looking to license it? I mean, because if you're looking to license it, you don't necessarily need to get an injection, like a mold for it. The company usually does it for you. They make the investment. So I personally have never paid for molds. I've never paid for patents. It's not something that I like to do. It gets you stuck in a position where, and if a company's saying we'll license it from you, if you pay $100,000, that's not a licensing deal. That I wouldn't do that. I'd get out of it. And so so let me circle back a little bit then. So Terry, you have to look at, what do you want your life to look like in 3 to 5 years? This question is more of it's a life question, not a product question, because, you spend the $100,000 on molds. Well, now you've got molds you've got to pay back. So now you've got to build a business. So and I mean, if that's your desire, is awesome. Build the business, make it happen. But if that's not your desire and you want to be a royalty check inventor, then don't get molds. That's not needed to license products. It's actually somewhat detrimental to actually licensing products because of something that I talked about earlier. Inventors not usually having the skill set to do internet marketing and selling products online or through retail to prove sales, one. And then here's the other one. This is the secret one that most people don't know. Let's say, Terry, you do pay for molds and you get samples. Companies, when you say, hey, would you want to license this? They say, well, let us buy 100 units half off and we'll test it out. If it goes well, then we'll license it. Well, here's the thing. They get 100 units and they have some type of stumbling block, and they just say, oh, then we don't have to do it. We just spent, $400 on units, and they just kind of sell those out and they're done. Where if they've invested the money in the molds, in development, and all these different things, they're committed to making the project work, because every project runs into hurdles and difficulty. But if they've only invested $400, they can just get out of it. But if they've committed to your project to make it successful, that's what gets them to push through those hurdles, push through the roadblocks to get the product to be successful like it should be. So I wouldn't invest if you're looking to license your product. All-Star. So Dan, if All-Star submission agreement says you lose your IP, then I wouldn't submit to them. I would go to a different, I'd go to a different company within the As Seen on TV space. David said, is there a list of companies that are looking for newly patented products? Does it have to be industry specific? Yes, it has to be industry specific. You don't want to be pitching hammer ideas to a lamp company. Most of the time, it's best to build out a list yourself. I and Invent Tribe give out a list of 25 companies from, I think, 4 different industries. And you can sign up for that. It's our inventor toolbox on the Invent Tribe website. but it's 25 companies and it's split up into different categories. It's there to kind of show people that, different industries have different connections. But, if you want your full list, it's used as an example to help people see that these are the companies that are looking for products, and they're not necessarily looking for patented products. They know that if you've got a patent, it's probably too late. And so you want to get them products before the patent gets granted. Let's jump over here. David, thank you for doing this. From Martin, have you heard of the company Patents to Retail? What has been your experience, good or bad? I've never heard of them. I don't know what they do. Patents to Retail, yeah, nothing. I don't know anything about them. I've never heard of them. It sounds like they're taking production products to retail and just selling it to retail agents, but not sure. All right. Let me see here. Try to knock off watermelon. Sorry, I'm jumping back and forth. I got 2 question boxes going. Ray, another question from Ray. Thank you. Dave, thank you for answering everyone's questions. You are a very intelligent person and very good. I'm very proud to work with you, my friend. Thank you. Thank you, Ray. I appreciate that. Dan had a question. There's a veteran in the industry who wants to act as an agent for one of my products. What are the roses and caveats of these kinds of agreements? What are they doing for you? I mean, that's the biggest thing, is understanding what they're doing, and then have kind of performance. If they're pitching your product, how many companies are they pitching to? Are they going to show you the results? What are you getting out of it? Ask what are the possible costs that you may incur as you move through this process. Because what you don't want is somebody that takes on your product as an agent and they don't necessarily have any performance guidelines of what they need to do, and they don't disclose, like, hey, because that's one of the things when I work with inventors is I say, once you get in and company's interested, they may ask for CAD models. So you need to either pay for it or figure out how to create them. And so I don't want people to be blindsided by extra costs that they didn't know about. And so these things do come up. And so, Dan, if I were you, I would start asking those questions and ask what are the kind of deliverables? What kind of performance guidelines are there? How is it that they will perform, or what will they do? Not just like, I will pitch your product, but what do you mean? Like, how many companies, what time frames, things like that. Chris said, what's the negative on the as seen on TV, folks? They looked at my product a few years ago and gave it the thumbs down, but this year I have a full line of kitchen products that might be more appropriate. Chris, I don't have anything against the as seen on TV, folks. It's just not a space for me to invent in. I see a lot of inventors working very hard to pitch products in that space because it's a very showy place, right? When you invent something there, it's a lot of the times very well known, but it's just a space where there's a lot of failure, and it's just there's not as much success there as there are in most other categories. And so, like, if you have a full line of kitchen products, I would probably pitch it to the kitchen category instead of the as seen on TV space. You can, it doesn't take much time to pitch the as seen on TV space. Most companies have online portals, but you obviously want to read through their agreements, as Dan had pointed out earlier, that some of them will own your IP if you submit to them. David on LinkedIn said, my invention can be configured for multiple industries. Do I target just one, or should I submit to multiple companies? Submit to multiple companies. Create marketing material for each individual category. You don't want You know, if your product can work in a hardware scenario and in the kitchen, you don't want to take the same sell sheet and pitch them to both. It doesn't make any sense. You've got to make separate marketing material. A lot of times what I find out or what I see is that one industry will gravitate towards your product. So you pitch it to the 2 categories or 3 categories. One category is usually the one that takes off, and you don't necessarily know which one. And so a lot of times I'll kind of do this little sample size where I'll take the marketing material, I'll develop, you know, my 3 different marketing pieces for each category, go pitch it to like 3 to 5 companies in each category. And usually one category is the one that kind of takes off and starts to be more interested in it. And then my image can be figured. Okay, here's another one from Tina. Thank you guys so much for these questions. Do you think it's wise to ask for less if you could get more of that control? Kind of. So Tina is referring to a question she had asked earlier about doing a dollar amount per unit versus a royalty. And she said to follow up, do you think it's wise to ask for less if you could get more of the control? In ways, yes, I would give up some of the control, but there's ways that you can give up control, but not necessarily give up less. So the way that you can negotiate it, Tina. I know you have worked with you before. You can negotiate it so that you don't have to give up any amount of money to get more control. And that's something we can work through. It's just language, right? If you tell good stories, and that's what negotiation is telling good stories and asking good questions. If you tell a good story that ends with a conclusion that makes sense, that you should have control and understanding of how your royalties are derived, and it makes sense to them, then they put it in the contract. And that's all you need to do is structure a storyline of how the deal should come together. So thank you, Tina. I'm going to jump over here to Martin's question. David, I'd like to sign up for your coaching program. Awesome. I'm very advanced on the development of ideas. Is there a minimum amount of time as a requirement for your coaching program? No, I have a lot of flexibility. I have 3 different programs that I offer. My first program is a basic self-learning program for those usually starting out, but some people like to do it depending on the level that they're at, because most inventors, they're looking for, you know, what do I do next? And that's offered in all 3 different programs that I offer. So the basic program is self-learning. It's live Monday night webinars. It's similar to like this, but everybody's live together on a Zoom, so everybody gets to interact and ask questions live with video. So we have a pretty decent sized group. It's not too big, but everybody gets to ask their questions. And so we have live Monday night webinars. We have the core course, which is the training that I built that all my students are licensing products with. Provisional patent application software that helps people write their PPAs, similar to like a H&R Block or TurboTax, right? We ask questions, you fill in blanks. At the end, it generates the document that you file with the USPTO. And that's the base program. I have the second level program, which is Silver Circle. It's essentially all of that, the core coaching, the Monday nights, all that with email access, email coaching, and then we meet once a week in small group. Small group is always less than 6 members, and it's all about accountability. So we're taking all your goals and breaking them down into step-by-step chunks so that you're moving forward. That is actually a super cool group. The Silver Circle students are moving forward pretty quickly. And then the last program that I have is the Inner Circle. So the Inner Circle is one-on-one coaching with me only. It's 30-minute sessions once a week, and we coach through and put together strategies on your products, work through marketing material, all of that with the Silver Circle, with the base program. And so if you are interested in signing up, Martin, I can put a link in the chat to you if you want to sign up and talk to our product licensing specialist, so you can talk about which program essentially fits into your program and how we can help you best get your product licensed. So I hope that helps, Martin. And let me know if you have any questions. Also, if you want to email me, david@inventtribe.com, I can help you too. So I'll post a link in the chat where you can book a call with our product licensing specialist to talk more about that. And I think I had one more question here. Okay, Robert, thank you for your question. Awesome, thank you, Martin. Thank you, Martin. There's the booking link. I'm all in on the idea licensing. I'm all in on idea licensing, my idea, rather than producing a product and trying it myself, right? Venture versus licensing. Can you tell me what is the difference between the services you provide and other similar companies that teach this licensing philosophy? Yes. Between the services you and other similar companies provide. Yes. So I coach and teach people how to license products. As I said at the beginning of the webinar, I got good at licensing my own products. I got great at coaching and teaching people how to license their own products. I've coached over 173 people how to license their own products. I have a very long track record of success, and that's something that I don't think you'll find another individual coach that has that level of success or ability to help close deals with you. And so that's one of the biggest things that I offer as a coach is my experience, my focus and ability to help people and motivate them and get them to focus on the right things, because that's really what coaching is about. I can tell you, hey, go call companies, but most people, if they don't believe with absolute certainty that those calls will help them get to where they want to be, they don't move forward. And so I am very good at coaching people through that process and making sure that they understand and focus on the right things, because if you don't focus on the right things, you don't get to the location you want to go. And so that's the big difference between me and everybody else in the industry, is that my philosophy of coaching is getting my students to focus on the right things so that you're doing the right thing. And also I coach on a habit level. So like, if I were to just teach you licensing, right? Teaching you licensing, it's like reading a book about swimming, right? You read a book about swimming, you don't know how to swim. But when I'm coaching people, I'm looking at their habits. Habits are something that are actually taught and trained into people, like brushing your teeth, right? You wake up and you don't think about brushing your teeth. You wake up and you brush your teeth and you start your day. You have a habitual way of doing things. And so the way I coach and teach people how to license products is essentially I look at how do we create the habits within the individual so that they can be successful. So it's like wake up, brush your teeth, and do the successful things necessary to license your products habitually, not like, oh, I need to sit down and think about what I need to do. We create habits to be successful. And so that's my philosophy on coaching, is I create habits to make you successful. And once you get to that point, I help coach and teach you through the process of negotiation, because that is very psychological. It's emotional. It's not only your psychology and your emotion, it's the potential licensee's psychology and emotions that both need to be brought together in a way that can make both parties have enough confidence to close the deal and bring the product to market and start your royalty stream. So, Robert, I hope that helps kind of bring clarity to who I am and what I do. Man, I just got a ton of questions in. I was like, it's top of the hour. So let me knock out these questions real quick. I'm going to try to do like 3 questions in 3 minutes. So in an email, you said you lost 2 of your first deals because the companies won't accept a minimum sales quota, but without a quota, you're basically giving away your IP. How do you get a company to agree with this? So Dan, in that situation, I lost 2 licensing deals because I didn't have a minimum quota, because they were my only opportunities. And so that was at the very beginning of my career. I started my career obviously without experience, right? A lot of trial and error. And so through creating those deals, I didn't see the minimum quotas, and minimum quotas don't necessarily matter. That's one misconception, both with inventors and licensees, which is kind of crazy to me that both sides don't necessarily understand how those work. But they are, sorry, I lost your question here. Let me, the minimum quotas are minimum guarantees. They're structures and contracts to return intellectual property. They're not quotas to make them perform anything. And that's the misconception between both parties. And if they're not used appropriately, then they're not structured in the contract right. And so you would need to make sure that those are done right. And now that I have much more experience and when I coach my students, I make sure that we're structuring some type of minimum performance so that we at least get the intellectual property back. And that's why a lot of times when I'm negotiating my deals and when I'm coaching the students, I focus on getting some type of upfront payment to get the deal closed. And not only get the deal closed, but get the product on the market so that it's making money. Deals can fall apart. It's part of the process. What would be other promising licensing categories? So there's the big five: houseware, hardware, pet, novelty, novelty, seasonal, and toy. Those are the five big categories that most licensing deals happen. The thing about that, Stephen, is most licensing deals have the most competition. Houseware, hardware, pet, novelty, gift and seasonal, and toy are those big five. And so there's a ton of competition, but that's where most of the deals are happening. Janet said, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and experience in answering people's questions. I appreciate you taking the time to do this so we can learn from you. Sweet. Thank you, Janet. Wolf Washer 360 became a hit because of a viral video product made, became viral. Do you recommend making a viral video? Yeah, I mean, you want to put a video out there that can get viral, that can make it big. One of the videos that I made for one of my products, I had put it out on social media and it had 10,000 views in 2 days. Nothing like the Wolf Washer, right? It was like 70 million views or something like that, some crazy amount. But 10,000 views, I told my licensee and they were in awe because the most videos that they had seen or most views they had, they never broke 100 with their videos. And so with 10,000, they were super impressed with that. So do make a video when it's time. And that will obviously help your product. Terry made a comment. Yes, hydroponics and the cannabis industry is exploding. I'm seeing more and more licensing deals there because of the legalization of it, medical and recreational. And so, yes, very true, Terry. And Ray had one comment. To everyone, this is an excellent company. Yes, thank you, Ray. Ray is part of my tribe, so thank you. He said Dave is excellent, so just let Dave help you. So thank you, Ray. So yes, thank you so much for everybody jumping on and being a part of this Q&A. I almost made it in 3 minutes. I got it in 5. And so, yes, so thank you, everybody. Another one of my students, all my students are jumping in here. James said, I'm in David's program. You'll not find a more qualified coach. Thank you, James. So yeah, thank you. Thank you to all my students that are on too. So yeah, let's keep rocking it. Let's go get some deals. And if anybody's interested in becoming part of the tribe, there's a link in the chat, whatever platform you're watching on. So that if you were interested in becoming part of the tribe or becoming one of my students to get your product licensed, click the link and talk to our product licensing specialist to figure out which program works best for you and helping you get your product license. So do have a wonderful night. Let's go get some deals and hopefully we'll be able to help you if you need us. So thank you so much and have a wonderful day.